Welcome to the Point of Convergence podcast. I am your host, Grant Lira. Get ready to sit down, tune in, and implement. Remember, the knowledge you learn here and anywhere else in your life is only worth something to you if you use it. So get implementing after this episode and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of Point of Convergence. Today, we are joined by Marisa Vallbona of CIM Inc. PR. Marisa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. Especially coming off a great weekend.
Yes, absolutely. So you are down in Texas, and I was just talking to you about this. I feel like so many people now are in Texas or moving to Texas, or they have some affiliation with Texas. It feels like almost everybody.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
It's a place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you obviously run a PR firm. You do a little bit more than that too. I'd love to hear where you're currently at, what's going on in your world right now.
Yeah. So I've been running my PR firm for, we're at 31 years now. And I have what I call, and a lot of people call it multiple streams of income. So PR is my primary stream of income. I also invest in real estate, and I have an online coaching business where I coach people on how to make the most out of Zoom and the online virtual meeting platforms. So that's mostly what I do, but my primary business is running my PR firm. And I've been doing that for 31 years now, as I say. So I work with a lot of lifestyle brands, luxury lifestyle brands, working in a lot of different industries in PR. And I absolutely love it. I mean, I don't get involved in anything that I don't love, but I love my career. And I'm so passionate about real estate investing. I just got into crypto investing a few years ago. Totally love that too. So I've really gotten immersed into that, just reading about that. I can get lost and go down rabbit trails reading about that. So yes, I'm involved in all of that too. And then with the Zoom research that I did and learning how to look better on Zoom and learning what a difference that makes just in my own business. How you look on Zoom, how you look on Microsoft Teams, how you present yourself can make the biggest difference into whether or not you're going to get the contract or not, how you're going to influence your teams, how you're going to influence your clients, the news media, your audiences, your key stakeholders. And I noticed a huge difference in my business. And when I started coaching clients on that, what a difference it made for them. I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to do something with this. So I created an online coaching program and made it available online to other people so that I didn't always have to be available to coach them one-on-one. And that's just been so much fun. So that's what I've been doing. A lot of things.
Staying busy. And that's cool too, because that is so funny that like the human brain does make those first impressions super quick. So if you don't look sharp, you don't look like how they expect you to look right away. You know, maybe it's dark in your room. Maybe you got, I don't know, like the camera angles all the way up here, something weird. It's looking up at you. You don't have the right background. Like that stuff does matter. It may sound dumb, but like it matters.
It matters so much. Okay. But you know, when you said you have a second, 7 seconds. It takes 7 seconds to make an impression. So like you can walk into a meeting, like I could be one-on-one in person with you and you can make an impression, or I can make an impression on you in 7 seconds. But when we're in person, it's totally different because you get to see me face to face. You get to get a feeling for my personality by what I'm wearing, how I present myself, how do I shake your hand, or what's my posture like? What am I like? What's the essence of my personality? But when you're on a social platform or a virtual platform, so many things are getting in the way. So we're talking about lighting, camera angle. You're talking about background, technology. So much gets in the way of showing who you really are. So for example, I've got a ring light on me right now. Look what happens when I turn my ring light off. You see those shadows and you see how I'm really hidden. And then if I change my my camera angle to go down like this, or if I have it even lower, like I've got it, my laptop propped up, if I'm like, I want to demonstrate this because this is such a huge deal. Okay.
And I'm gonna turn my light back on because I want to stay looking good here.
So look at this. It really, really makes a difference. And this drives me crazy. Like when people are doing their Zoom meetings like this and they're looking down. So I have no ring light. I'm looking down at it. Do you see what a difference that makes? And they get on to meetings like this and they're talking and they're conducting the meeting and you're looking at their ceiling and you're looking up their nose.
Yeah.
Right. And they're talking and presenting, and the impression that it gives, the impression, you can't even say what a difference the impression is. It's terrible, right?
Yeah. And so many people now, especially listening to this podcast, they're having Zoom meetings, right? Almost everyone's having Zoom meetings. So this is something too, where if you're still at this stage where you think like, oh yeah, I can take this meeting with my laptop. I'll go in my living room. I have some dishes in the background. Right. I don't have any lights. Like, guys, I guarantee you, and I'm sure that Marisa can speak to this as well, once you get your presence and you have a good setup and you actually look presentable on camera, you're going to notice a difference. You notice a difference almost right away.
You totally notice a difference. And look, I prop my laptop up with 4 books like this because I have a plastic box that I bought, but it doesn't give the exact height. So I figured out 4 of these books. So I'm going to prop it back up so that I get the right height again. But once I started figuring this out, and here's what happened when I did this, was because when the pandemic hit and people were losing business left and right, I'm getting my configuration back up. I can't even stand to look at myself on Zoom or Teams or notice the difference. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, here I am again. It's like, this is me. Like, this is how I look. This is how I present myself. I feel like, okay, now I'm me. Now I'm relaxed. Now I don't look like a freak. Like you're not looking at my nose. You're not looking at my ceiling. That's the difference. But like when the pandemic hit, I remember like seeing all these people lose business, and I started thinking, what am I going to do? All these companies going out of business. And I thought, I am so used to going out and meeting with people face to face and getting PR clients that way. And I thought, what am I going to do now? What if, and I've had longtime clients that I absolutely adore, and I'm so thankful and grateful for them. But I thought, what if something happens? How am I going to get business? And I'm so used to conducting meetings virtually because of all the travel that I do. But conducting meetings virtually is different from getting contracts virtually. That's when I thought I really need to study this, and I really need to figure out the whole thing about 7 seconds you make an impression. And that's when I started learning how to do this the right way. And I'm going to tell you something, Grant, there is bad information out there. Like there is some information out there that tells you wrong things about how to prepare for a Zoom meeting, Teams, Google, or whatever it is, that it doesn't have to be that complicated, and it's just not good information. So I came up with a super simple system, and it works every time.
Yeah. And we'll obviously link that down below in our description, because it is something too where it's so important. And if you drop the ball on that, essentially you're looked at as a novice. And now me and Marisa here, we're pretty dressed up right now, her a little bit more than me, but for a lot of my meetings.
I look dressed up, but I'm not that dressed up. Nah. Sorry.
But what I was saying is, for a lot of, our meetings, and we work with a lot of different people, usually, owners of companies. So it depends on what industry you're in, but you don't even necessarily have to have like a collared shirt or something like that, because a lot of the times the presentation of yourself and how you're actually being, on screen, your on-screen presence is going to speak leaps and bounds above, if they've talked to somebody else who maybe had one of those setups. So it's setting you up for success right there.
Grant, that's exactly it. And here's the thing, like, let's say that you are going for a contract or you're trying to get your point across with something. If somebody is comparing you to other people and everybody else shows up the regular way, but you show up the way you are, like, I'm sure you've got a ring light or right, and you have your laptop or your computer at the right height and everything else, and you've tested your sound and everything, right? And you've paid attention to everything, the background, everything. And that person who's trying to make a decision between you and everybody else who hasn't gone through the trouble, with all things being equal, you're going to get chosen because you know how to present yourself. And the bottom line comes down to this. What you're communicating is that you pay attention to details. If you pay attention to those kinds of details when it comes to how you present yourself, you're going to pay attention to that kind of detail with this person's business.
Absolutely. And you're so right. Yeah, right on the head. And now within that too, I want to talk a little bit about this. So you've been in, face-to-face, selling your PR, selling yourself, selling your business for a long time. You've transitioned over to Zoom. Now, for people who maybe are in that process right now, and they're kind of feeling like they're in a rut, obviously they need to check out your system you have. And like I said, that will be linked. But in addition to that, what advice would you give them? What have you noticed personally are the big differences from face-to-face, in person, to something like we're doing right now over Zoom?
Well, and I also want to tell you, like, when you link it, I'm offering a super, super discounted deal for the most important module, which is lighting. And lighting is one of the very biggest differences. So it's way low discount. I don't want people to feel like, oh, there's going to be a link and it's going to be expensive. It's not. It's like the cost of a sandwich. So I don't want people to feel intimidated.
And for those of you listening real quick, I know some people don't watch this visually, but when me and Marisa both turned off our lights and she actually went the whole 9 yards, she had the computer, it was a very, very different perspective that you get of somebody and a very different first impression you would get off. Think about that. No matter what you wear like that, if you're in front of the computer's eyes are essentially those people eyes. So those people's eyes that you are trying to impress or trying to win over, that's what really matters, right? It doesn't matter how you look, it matters how you're being perceived by the camera. So that's a huge thing. And I highly recommend, if you're just listening, watch that. I'll put a timestamp in exactly when we do like the before and after things so you can see that. But I just wanted to make a note of that. So Marisa, please continue. Awesome. Face-to-face versus online.
Yeah. So when you were saying, you asked me what's the difference like in person versus in Zoom?
That you've noticed just from like your personal experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are a few things that I've noticed. So like if you're doing a one-on-one, when you're in person, you can be a lot more subdued. But when you're doing something, and I'm going to just use Zoom as the overall, but when I talk about Zoom, I'm talking about Microsoft Teams, I'm talking about Google Hangouts, right? I'm talking about GoToMeeting. So I'm talking about any virtual meeting platform, but I'm just going to use Zoom as the generic name, right? So when you're in any of those, I need to decline this call, sorry. When you're in any of those meetings, what I've noticed virtually is that showing more personality is important because it's showing more enthusiasm. It's getting that across. When you're in person, it shows more when you're in person without having to be as animated. But on camera, you have to be a little more animated to really get that across, right? You have to, it's not exaggerate, but you just have to show more. And I've noticed like people I know really well when we do a Zoom and I know their personalities, they don't come across as well on camera. And if I didn't know them, I would think, well, they're being kind of flat today. They're really not. That's just who they are, but it just doesn't show as well on camera. And right. And so when you're on camera, you just have to like take it up a notch or two.
Yeah. And, lucky Lucky for me, I'm Italian, so talking with the hands usually happens. And I don't let them go all over the screen, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Being more animated, kind of really showing engagement, because it's hard for people to tell if you're engaged, and it's hard for you to tell if people are engaged because there is so much noise going on between yourself and the actual screen, right? There's emails popping up. They could have closed out the window. They might not even be paying attention. So keeping them engaged and keeping them, talking to you and really thinking about what you guys are talking about is huge too. And I like that a lot. So yeah.
Exactly. So it's doing that. It's also when you're on the virtual meeting platform, it's making sure that you are keeping your eyes on the screen. It's making sure that you're fully engaged, that you're not doing something else, right? So that the other person knows that you're fully engaged. If you're in a group meeting, paying attention even when somebody else is talking, not zoning out, so that you look like the one who is always present. Because there are times when you're going to be in a group meeting and people are going to zone out. But if you look like the one who's always present, you're going to look like the superstar. That really does make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. And now talked a little bit about that. Something you touched on earlier, I do want to circle back around to, is the multiple streams of income. So one of the things that you said was crypto. You also said real estate.
Yeah.
Now within real estate, I know that's, I don't want to say low barrier to entry, because it's truly, there's a lot you need to know about it, but I think people think it is, and then they go about it the wrong way. How did you get into real estate? How did you start that kind of, stream of income on the side?
So what happened was I was working for a PR firm when I first moved. Let's see, I grew up, I was born and raised in Texas, and I moved to San Diego after like in 1988. And the first PR firm I worked for in California, they had a bunch of real estate clients, and the real estate clients were the ones that they gave the account coordinator and junior account executive and account executive that they kind of wanted to punish. So it was kind of like, let's give this to the person who is the new kid on the block that we really don't like. Well, I showed up in California with a super heavy Texas accent. And everybody there was like, who is this girl? Who does she think she is? And so they kind of wanted to put me in my place. And I'm not talking about the owners of the firm. The owners of the firm liked me and they were really nice to me. But the other people who worked there, I guess they were trying to like put me through some kind of a hazing or something. So they gave me all these boring real estate accounts. And the more I read, and I wasn't interested in real estate at all. I didn't know anything about it. And so here I am, this little, girl, reading all about real estate to learn about it. And it was commercial real estate and residential real estate and land development. So it was all kinds of real estate. And I just got fully immersed in it. And what I started learning, because in order to do PR, you have to know everything about a lot about what you're writing about and what you're promoting so that you can communicate it to the news media and to the public. I started figuring out that my clients at the firm were exceptionally wealthy people. And I started figuring out they're wealthy because they are investing in land, they're investing in commercial buildings, and they're investing in residential real estate. And I thought, I need to do that. How do I do that? So I was obviously spending a lot of time with these people and learning how it's done. And I started loving those accounts. Those became my favorite accounts. I became really good at it. And that's really how I got into it. And I started spending a lot of time with the firm's principals, asking them a lot of questions about real estate. And I was lucky that one of the firm's principals happened to be the former real estate reporter for the San Diego Tribune. It was the Tribune at the time. So he would talk to me a lot about it. And he would say, the second you have enough money to put a down payment on a property, I don't care how bad the housing market is, you run and buy a property as soon as you can. So he kind of coached me along on how to do it. So I got my first property. And it just went from there. And then I started listening to CDs from, those people who teach how to buy properties and stuff like that. So I listened to my first CD from a guy named Carlton Sheets, who taught how to buy properties with no money down. And it was one of those things where he offered the CD and said, if you don't like it or whatever, 30 days money back guarantee. And it was super cheap. It was like, I don't know. I mean, it was dirt cheap. And I listened to it and I thought, I'm probably just going to send it back for my money back. But I learned so much that I decided to keep it. And I ended up buying my first property for no money down. Then I bought several more, and it turned out to be one of the best investments I ever made in my life. I really got so much out of it. I mean, I even taught my kids how to invest in real estate. They bought their first property at age 5 and 13.
Really?
I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
It was tremendous. It's just been a life changer.
So that's something that's so cool. And now looking at that for somebody who, has maybe heard this a few times, and this is the deciding factor. They said, okay, this is the umpteenth time I've heard this. I am actually going to do it now. Today's market, where would you recommend they start? Do you think they should look small? Do you think they should save up, do something commercial? Like what's the best way to kind of get into the real estate game and really start that cash flow?
I wouldn't buy, I shouldn't say this. Like some people would say, okay, now that the pandemic has hit, I would buy commercial because commercial is in the tank now that everybody has left office buildings. But I don't know enough about commercial right now because I'm not really involved in the commercial area right now. So I can't comment on commercial. I would not take my own advice on commercial. So let's talk about residential. I would buy commercial. I would buy residential real estate as much as you could possibly afford. And I would buy what is considered bread and butter homes, not necessarily a home that you would live in, but something that's easy to rent out. So a 2 or 3 bedroom, 2-bath home in a neighborhood that's just an average home that's near good schools and that's easily rentable, that doesn't have a high mortgage so that you can easily make a profit on. Those are the properties, the bed and butter properties are the ones that you definitely want to buy and put a sizable down payment on it. So whenever I would buy investment properties, I would put at least 20 to 40% down on them because I didn't want to be strapped if something happened where I had to sell the property or if I had to carry the property for a while. I didn't want to be strapped. So I never did any creative financing. I mean, once I got to the point where I was buying properties with no money down, then then we went through that whole real estate crash. Then I bought properties with a lot of money down because I had the capital to do that. But if you're buying something with, hardly any money down, make sure that the cash flow is there. Make sure that the mortgage that you're paying is a lot less than the rent you're getting in, and that you can carry the property for a few months without a mortgage, without a rent payment.
Yeah. And so something you said there that was interesting. I want to clear this up. Easily rentable. What does an easily rentable property look like?
Something that is in a neighborhood that is desirable to live in. And I'm not talking something that's ritzy or whatever. I'm talking about a middle class to lower middle class neighborhood where people would want to rent property. Something that is that's not beat up. And you'd probably want to buy a property that you need to fix up. You definitely never want to buy the nicest house on the street, ever, not as an investment property. It's usually a better idea to buy the worst house on the nicest street. That way you can fix it up and make more of a profit.
That's interesting too. And I see what you're saying with that, because if you buy the worst house on the nicest street, and you fix that up, that's a one-time investment you make to fix the property up. Right. But then that pays 10 times over for the lifetime of that property.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly.
Okay. So I wanted to touch on that just a little bit. And something else I also just want to ask you, side note, cryptocurrency, did you get into Dogecoin in time or did that not?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you actually?
You know what? I heard about Dogecoin from my boyfriend's son. And I thought, okay, what is this? And I was resisting it because you know that Dogecoin is nothing. It's a meme.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Meme, right? And I thought, I'm not going to get into this. And, you know, he asked me about it. And this kid is really smart. And so I looked at it and I thought, I'm not going to get it. And the more I looked at it, I just started watching it. I started watching the ticker and everything. And as I started seeing it continue to go up, I thought, you know what? And I read more about it. I mean, you know that Mark Cuban with the Mavericks, you know the story of him getting into it, and the Mavericks are accepting payment in it. You know that Elon Musk is completely behind it, and they're talking about accepting Dogecoin to buy Tesla. Right? So, okay. So I thought, okay. And then they're talking about jacking the price for April 20th. So I had to do it. I put $500 in it and it's going up. It's really going up. So I'm going to ride it. You know, I decided I can afford to lose $500 on it. I'm going to ride it. And I'm excited.
And you know, it's funny because I remember back in the day when that first kind of came out, because I think I heard about it probably 4 years ago. That timeline might not be accurate, but it was a long time ago. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But in my head, I was like, I might buy like, you know, $500 just to put it in and see what happens. Yeah. Should have done that. But I just thought that was interesting. I saw that recently and I was like, wow, Doge is really doing it.
Did you get in at all? Like, have you put anything in it?
No, I did not invest in Doge. I should have.
What about Mina? Have you heard of Mina?
I haven't.
Okay, so Mina this is another one my boyfriend's son told me about. So Mina is lighter than blockchain. So it's supposed to be a rival to blockchain, even lighter than the existing blockchain, and it's as light as one single tweet. Look into it, MINA.
That's the ticker?
Yeah, MINA. So I just got into that. I spent almost the entire weekend researching that. So I just got into that on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's something really interesting too. And, you know, stocks are so interesting because I think if nothing else, within people's personal lives, they build up a really, really good understanding of delayed gratification. Right. And I think for so many people, they have that instant gratification feedback loop, whether it's cell phones, whether it's, you know, whatever, that when you're looking to start your business, or you're looking to grow your business, whatever you're looking to do, that stuff doesn't happen overnight. So I actually do recommend people get into stocks to truly see something physical and monetary that represents that delayed gratification. So I love that.
Right. And Grant, what else it represents is, and by the way, Mina, you can't get it right now. It's going to release May 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, it releases May 31st. Right now, they opened a window, a period from April 14th to the 18th where you could buy IOUs to buy it later. And that's what I got in on. But now it's closed and you can buy it May 31st. That's when it opens up. So just keep an eye on that.
There we go.
But with stocks, I absolutely love what you said, because I think what makes it so great is that you buy it and you keep an eye on it, and you have to be willing to ride the ups and the downs. And it mimics life and business, because there are tremendous gains and there are losses, and you have to be willing to follow the gains and follow the losses and realize that in the end, if you stick with it and you stick with that commitment, there are tremendous payoffs in the end. And there's also risk. You could really get hurt, but that's just the way it is in life, and it's just the way it is in business. So I think you're absolutely right. It is delayed gratification.
I like the way you put it too. I like the ups and downs. I've never heard someone put it like that, but that's so true. That's absolutely true. And now, talking on the topic of ups and downs, I do want to also touch real quick here on your PR business and just some more like tactical questions for this, because, doing a little research about you, I believe in quote, please, let me know if I'm wrong, but one of your quotes is, if it's noteworthy, you can get it in the press, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that process, how do you find those quality stories? How do you create those quality stories? What kind of angles do you look for when you're talking with people who are looking to get press?
Well, we don't take on clients who we don't feel we can help. So if a client comes to us and says, we want to hire you as our PR firm, and they are not newsworthy, we won't accept them as a client. Period. If they're not ethical, we're not going to take them on. So let's assume that a client comes to us and they're ethical and they're newsworthy. We're going to take them on. And what we do is we look for nuggets within what they're doing to get the story. We package the story and then we send it out to the news media. So we'll package it in a news release, or we'll send a pitch letter, or we'll contact our contacts within the news media and we'll let them know, hey, we've got a client. This is what they're doing. We think that you'll be interested in this story, because every reporter has a different beat that they're covering and they have different interests in different stories. And we make sure that we match what our clients are doing to the different types of stories that reporters want to write. So that's what we do to get our clients in the news.
Yeah. And so within that too, for people who don't necessarily understand exactly how like press works and like, what do they mean when they're talking about getting different, news outlets, like their contacts, like how does this work? Would you mind breaking down just in a real surface level exactly how that press process works? Because we also do press, but I know a lot of people, there's a lot of confusion around it.
Grant, there's so much confusion around it that, my family doesn't even really understand what I do. And I've been doing this for years. So essentially, when you talk about, like when somebody comes to us and they say, get me press on this, they don't really understand like how complicated and time consuming it really is. So essentially, your PR person has relationships with the news media. And I'm going to break it down even further. So there's earned media and paid media. Earned media is public relations. That's what we do. So when we go out and we get earned media, that means that it's up to the editors and the reporters to decide if the story has enough news value, if it's newsworthy enough to make it into the paper, the blog, the TV, on the radio, a podcast, right? Is it newsworthy enough to get it in there? Then it is earned, because it's earned the right to be there, right? That's earned media. That is public relations. It's free. It's free to be in there. The thing that the client pays for is the client pays for the PR professional's time to package the story, to communicate it correctly, to get it in there, right? So we write the press release. We have all the contacts. We know who to call. Typically what happens is a lot of lists that are available that clients might think, oh, I can get my own list and I can contact people. Those lists, I saw that look you gave. Those lists are so outdated. They're wrong. You'll get so frustrated, you'll have trouble doing it. We have lists that we have them programmed in our phones. So like if I want to get a story in a top paper like the LA Times or the Wall Street Journal, I'm on a texting basis with these people. So I'll just text them and say, hey, I got a great story for you. Tell them what it is. And they're like, oh, I love it. Send it over. That's the way we have built our contacts over decades. And we've nurtured and nourished these relationships. They're friendships. So that's the way we work it. Now, let me talk about paid media for a minute. Paid media is advertising. So that's the difference. If it's advertising and a client comes to us and they say, we want to get this in, let's say the LA Times, and they want to get a story in there. And I go to the LA Times and I say, we want to get this story in there paid. It's an advertisement. I can say whatever I want. I can tell the LA Times I want it on this page. This is the headline. This is what I want to say. This is the photo. This is the date I want it in, and this is how long I want it to run. That's paid media. So we get to dictate how, when, what, everything about it. With earned media, it's up to the editor. All of those details, the editor can even decide that they don't want to run it at all. They decide what they want it to say and how they want to say it and whether they want to say it. And that's the confusion that a lot of people have, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I personally like to get your take on this too. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're both used for different things. You know what I mean? Like one has really good points in this category and the other one is better for this service thing. Now, within that too, something you said that I really liked is, yes, with earned media, it is earned, right? So it's essentially like them stumbling across it, you know, just out in the open. They decide to write an article, but they obviously trust you or they trust whoever's talking to them. So they make that connection just like that. Now, people, you know, need to understand that they're paying for not only that time, but essentially you're paying for connections. You're paying for proximity, right? Proximity to that person. Because if you have proximity, a lot of the times, I mean, that's all you need to become successful is just building that circle. And eventually you're going to have enough proximity to make that happen. So I like how you actually explain that because I don't know if I've ever heard somebody explain it so concise and, you know, accurate before.
Thank you. Well, we're communicators. We try. But, you know, when you were saying the paid and earned, I think both of them work really well and we have to work them together. So that's why I think integrated marketing is so important. And we work like with our clients, we work in teams. And so CIM actually stands for Cornerstone Integrated Marketing. We work really closely with advertising teams and we make sure that we're always communicating with each other to make sure that we know what are their ad campaigns, what are they communicating so that our PR campaigns are communicating the same messages. So everything is integrated. Where are they placing their ad campaigns? We want to make sure that we're pitching our PR campaigns to similar media so that people, the public, that the stakeholders that are important to our clients are hearing the same messages over and over and over again. That's how you're going to move the needle.
I like that. And I think that's so important too, because people, a lot of the times when they think of marketing who aren't necessarily marketing people, they think about it in a vacuum, right? This Facebook ad I'm running is going to do this. This press release I'm doing over here is going to do this too. But you need to look at it like an ecosystem because all that stuff needs to mesh together if you truly want the sum of everything you're doing, right? If you have different angles and different offers for every, you know, little channel that you're on, you're going to see results. But if you have the same offers, the same angle, and you know that people keep seeing that, I mean, that's where the real magic happens.
Exactly. You have to work as a team. And so that's one of the things I love about my clients is they really bring us on, you know, my firm and our team, they bring us on as if we're an extension of their business. And it's fun because we're really brought on as a part of their teams. And it's fun because we get to see what they're doing and they really involve us. But it works better that way because we're more successful.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And we are going to start wrapping things up here. I do want to ask you another question though. And this one is a fun question I like to ask, and I'm kind of excited to hear your response. So looking back, you know, at your whole journey, every single thing you've done now, if you were to have to restart tomorrow, you had no social proof, you had no testimonials, you had no clients to, you know, help you out right away. Where would you start? You know, in today's current market, basically starting from scratch, what would you do? Would you still be doing press? Would you go right into real estate? What would that look like for you?
You know, there are times, I got to tell you, Grant, there are times, okay, one of my clients is Coldwell Banker Realty. Okay. And our market, my firm's market is Southern California and Arizona. So I spend a lot of time in LA. And when I'm there with these agents, and I love the agents I work with and love the management. And there are times when I just say, gosh, you know what? I should have become an agent. So I don't know, maybe I would have become maybe I would have become an agent, because it's such a fun business. If I had to do it all over again, that would have been a super fun business. But then again, maybe they look on my side of the fence and think, wow, you have it made, because you have your weekends and we don't. We're working all weekend. And I know they work all weekend long because they reach out to me and I know they're working. So I'm happy with the way my life turned out. I mean, there was a time when I almost went for an interview with the CIA. So, I speak several languages and I have 3 citizenships, and I thought, I'd be a really good CIA agent. Now I don't think I'd be very happy being a member of the CIA. So I don't know. It's like so many things interest me, but I have to say, I never, ever regret my career choice. I'm super happy with what I've done and how my life has turned out. And I do know that PR is a lot more complicated today, and it's very different. And I think real estate is a wonderful, wonderful choice. Anybody getting into real estate, I have to plug my client, because I think Coldwell Banker really is the best brokerage. They train and they educate their agents and support them better than any other brokerage I've seen. I really believe that, not just because they're my client, but they really do an amazing job.
Well, what we'll do is, after this, you send me their website. We'll link that down below as well.
Okay.
But Marisa, tell us real quick, and as you know, I'm going to link all this, but I want you to say it out here just in case people are listening, not checking it out this way. Where can we learn more about you guys? Where can we learn more about your company? Where can we find your course? Tell us about that.
Okay, so you can learn more about CIM Inc. PR at CIMIncPR.com. And you can find my course at How to Look Amazing on Zoom.com. And you can get it there. So there's a free download if you go to howtolookamazing.on-zoom.com, and you can get that there. But the link that I'm going to give you later on is and just find that one, howtolookamazing.on-zoom.com, and you'll get a free download there. And then the other one that I'm going to give you later on, that's going to have the discounted module on it.
Perfect. And guys, we will include that below. Marisa, thank you. I think this was a really value-driven podcast. Super happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and it's been fun getting to know you. Have a blast in Texas.
Yes. For those of you guys who don't know, I am going to Texas this weekend, so I couldn't be more excited about that.
That's going to be fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, Marisa, take care. Thank you guys for tuning in. Always appreciate you.